Firstly, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for being here at 2:59. We're just going to start in another minute while we wait for everyone to sort of continue to stream into the webinar. Welcome to yet another edition of the Step Up series by Naukri.com. Just to sort of, I'll share a few more details, but just while we wait here, we're very happy that you've all joined us on a Friday afternoon, and hopefully you're looking forward to a very nice weekend as well. Um, I'm Prashant Sharma, a member of the InfoEdge marketing function, and I hope you're all safe, healthy, surrounded by loved ones in these pandemic times. Right? Just give us another minute. We'll all be on mute, and then we'll kick it off. Right? Yes. So, firstly, welcome to everyone. My name is Prashant Sharma. I am a member of the marketing function at the InfoEdge family. Uh, Firstly, thank you so much. Like I was just saying a moment ago, I hope you're all happy, safe, healthy, surrounded by loved ones in these pandemic times. This is our second webinar from a Step Up series that is a special initiative by Naukri.com. Step Up is, of course, a special step taken for the betterment of candidates as well as employers. And all the information for that is available on all the Naukri.com platforms across the board. Uh, Before I continue to share more things and talk about panel and as well as the topic, just a few pointers to ensure that you all can maximize the takeaways from this webinar. The webinar has been planned for 1 hour and we expect to wind up by 4 p.m. We started right on time at 3 p.m. And we have this planned as a very interactive conversation. We will be discussing some of the questions shared by our audience while you all were signing up. We've received some great registrations and we really appreciate the support there as well. We will also be using live polls after each section to gather your feedback. I will be queuing them myself, and while you vote, the poll will be on the screen for about 25 to 30 seconds. We'd request you to please be a part of it, share your take as well. Um, Apart from this, I think one very important aspect that I do want to talk about is, of course, the wonderfully diverse and experience. And when I say experience, it's close to 6 decades when I combine everyone on the panel. Today, we have the pleasure of having a conversation with, firstly, Soma Pandey, CHRO of the First Source organization. Soma is a dynamic leader with years of global experience, and she's worked with some great organizations like ITC, Accenture, Randstad, and now, of course, she's at First Source, where she's the Chief Human Resource Officer. Uh, Next up, of course, we also have Sonia Sehgal. Sonia Sehgal is the industry university recruiting leader at Microsoft. Sonia is an extremely experienced HR professional with capabilities in talent acquisition, staffing, processes, and working in new territories and identifying new business opportunities. We have the pleasure of having to learn from her, someone who's worked with organizations like Deloitte, CDI Corp, Google, and now Microsoft as well. Uh, Next up, of course, we also have Mr. Manish Cham. He's the head for talent performance and learning center of excellence at Whirlpool Asia. So as you can see, all three panelists are from different sections of the industries. They're all from different verticals within HR as well. While Sonia was someone who takes care of university recruitment, Soma is a CHRO. Manish is someone who's experienced in HR automation, comp and ben, organization development, and of course, enjoys his time talking about employer branding as well. He's spent some wonderful time at organizations like Bharti Airtel, Maersk Line, and now he's currently with Whirlpool Asia. We'll be trying to understand how organizations of all sizes and structures can develop a solid employer branding strategy in today's times. I think we've all seen the news, we've all seen the reports. We've seen how important the communication strategy and employer branding has to be, even when we're delivering bad news. And which is why today's topic is around the impact of coronavirus and COVID-19 on employer branding. Some of these changes and some of the impact is of course temporary, but a lot of this might also be permanent. And to discuss that, I think that's why we have this wonderful panel here today. If you have any questions, remember there's a raise hand feature. Please do raise your hand. We'll try to come to you, time permitting. Uh, now to start things off, I'd request each of the panelists to take, to take the spotlight and share a little bit with us, because I think to set the context, there is no better question and there is no more precise answer that the audience might be looking for than how are you dealing with these times? How are you navigating through these tough times? And one key initiative that you may say has seen a great impact, and anything that you've observed as an initiative within your organization that you think is worth sharing with us as well. One by one, I think I'd love it if all three could share that with us. Firstly, I'd like to come to Sonia. Sonia, I think not only is your vertical something that we've been talking about possibly the most. I think freshers, folks who are trying to join from the universities, very, very uncertain times, and I'm sure this is a challenge that I don't even think anyone would say that I'm prepared for it or am I not prepared for it. So we'd love to hear from you on that. So over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, Prashant, and thank you so much, folks, for having me here. Indeed, happy to be talking about it in the past couple of weeks. And like you said, we are all talking about it because that's what we can do. I only wish if we had enough rule books and guidebooks and SOPs around it for us to follow and say, okay, this is what we have to do now. What is happening right now is that we are trying to come to terms with reality and discover our new normal, both personally and professionally. I think this is one of the few times, even though you've called it out, Prashant, on our age and our experience, I successfully hid my gray hair, so you're not going to be able to. But I don't remember of my family folks' generations talking about a time where there was a dual impact, where the professional and personal space were both occupied profusely by uncertainty. And what do you do in these times? Where you have no precedence, where you have no guidance, and there is this constant evaluation of what next, what do you do? So first and foremost, I don't think I at least, and I'm sure most of us have the capacity and capability. We're all figuring it out. We are sort of exploring the medical profession to detail, where we go one by ruling out things. And hence, we are doing that. If I talk about my personal self and my professional self, the organization that I'm associated with, I personally believe, and I'm glad Microsoft believes it too, is that in these times it is important to be focusing on well-being. And when I say well-being, it's a very broad term of an individual, of the team, of the organization, and in totality, everyone. And I think that's the phenomena, that's the philosophy we've gone after. The well-being in terms of standing by our commitments, the well-being in terms of really going in and checking in of whether it's family, whether it's team, whether it's employees, and just saying, how are things? Because when you can't do much more, all you do is just go in there and say, okay, how are things? So one of the first things that has worked is, and I'm super proud about it, is just the focus on people and their well-being. I think what has also been something that I've heard repeatedly in a lot of conversations is around some of the, I would say, sporadic reactions to the situations, which have impacted students, individuals, experienced folks, each one to themselves. I don't think I'm in the authority of questioning it, but I feel these are times where we'll really have to go beyond immediate knee-jerk reactions, but just slow down and see what is here and now and what needs to be reviewed in coming days. All right, but before I pass it on to my next esteemed panel, I think what is very important and crucial is to stay sane, is to stay well as we approach these turbulent times.
Right. I think thank you so much for that. Really insightful. And I think the focus on well-being is a very key aspect that you talked about there. From that, I want to transition to a gentleman who's actually today already at office. He is back at work. So Manish, I want to pass on the baton to you and ask you how your experience has been in coping with this, and a key initiative that you think is really relevant.
I'm sorry.
You're on mute, Manish.
Yeah. So thanks, Prashant, for first of all a kind introduction, and I'm glad to be here. And as you rightly said, I'm in office, so it's very different experience, And I'm in office almost after 2.5 months, after mid-March, and there are a lot of If I were to say where am I as an individual, so it's a lot of curiosity to see around me, what is happening, understanding the new protocols at the workplace, right the moment you enter the office, the moment where the tires of your cars are sanitized, so you have to just rub your hands multiple times, to have your own water bottle and so on and so forth. So it's a very different experience, I would say. Not to discount the anxiety and the anxiousness what you have in your mind in terms of understanding what is happening around you. So if I were to talk about the last 2.5 months, so my role enables me to have a view outside India, which is to a larger Asia as a region. And I'm sure in most of the organizations you have different geographies, but Asia Pacific or Asia is generally a one cluster of the market. Now, if you were to look at and compare this market with any other market, this is the one market which is Asia has been in this whole COVID hall for the longest. So what it started in the month of January mid in mainland China, it's still continuing, right? While the other regions had a peak and trough. And again, in Asia as a region, it started off in Jan. Singapore market had its own experience. They almost became normal. Then again, they started. India had started much later at the end of March. So I've had an experience of looking at things going in peaks and troughs in different market, different clusters, and impact on our organization. And so and again, bring it to the cultural aspect for it, how different cultures react to this kind of situation, how societies adapt to this kind of challenge, again, is a very great insight. How employees and the employer's mindset also contributes to a lot in terms of adapting to the situation. So I think a couple of things which really stand out in my mind is that I think while we have had such kind of, disruptions, we saw it in 2008. Before that, we saw it at the start of this century in 2000 with the .com, Y2K. I think this kind of disruption has been unprecedented. One, from the fact of the speed at which it landed at our doorsteps. Number one. Number two, the sheer time scale and the impact, not only in the professional space of people, but at the society, at the nation, at the livelihoods, that kind of impact. And third, most importantly, the imprint what it's going to leave on people's mind for good some time. I think it has really altered that. So, and as an organization, we are adapting to a lot of things, as it comes. But one thing is clear that we know that our whole positioning has been that, look, we don't know, we are also figuring it out like a lot of other people also. And when we talk about the word called workforce, there are a lot of constituents to it. And in fact, not any time in the past, the differentiating needs or different elements of the workforce has been so stark. So there are different needs for white collar, different needs for blue collars, and we have manufacturing plants as well. So we have laborers which come to our plants, and then you bring in the migrant issue which is coming in. So every constituent of a workforce has a very differentiated need, And I think as employers, not only Whirlpool, but all the other industry per se, have to be sensitive, very contextual, contemporary, and very empathetic about those differentiated needs. So that's what my take is and experience in these current times.
All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Manish. I think like initially Sonia told us about the importance of focusing on well-being. You've spoken about the different needs, the different categories of needs that have come to fruition, and of course we understand the migrant issue. I think it's something that's extremely moving for everyone who's connected to it, and we know that the factories and plants that Whirlpool is involved with. So matlab, we hope that throughout all of this, we're in that zone where we're all still learning. No one has a playbook.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which is why I think I want to go to Soma next. Soma, what happened to your hiring plans, your initiatives? How did all of that change overnight, or have they changed? Have they not changed? What do you think is the impact on you?
Thank you so much, Prashant, and thanks, Sonia and Manish, for sharing your views. And hello to all the participants. I hope everybody is keeping safe and you're protecting yourselves and your families. I think that's really top of mind right now, that to make sure that you're not just taking care of people, but you're allowing them to do what's right for themselves, and you're making space as a company for people to behave in the way that most suitable for themselves and their families, considering the kind of pandemic that's going on. So we are a services industry and we are across various verticals. So our clients do all kinds of things. And depending on which client we serve, their business has been impacted accordingly. For example, if you're working for a hospitality or a hotel or an airline, definitely business has plummeted. But if you're working for a bank or a mortgage or a refinance company, then those businesses have gone up because interest rates are changing and people are trying to secure their savings and their homes and things like that. So I think it's, for my company, for Firstsource, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. And we have, I think, the pillars of our thinking have been around authenticity and communication, both internally with our employees, with clients, as well as with candidates, right? I mean, like you said, we are all in the dark, and it's okay to accept that and tell people that, hey, I made you an offer. I don't know if I can keep to it today, but I'm telling you this, and I'm looking out and I'll see how I repurpose you or I come back to you well within time. So there are services industries, and I'm sure we are no comparison to Microsoft, but we had tons of people every month, right? So it's a huge volume. But you had to, at this point in time, not treat them as a number in an Excel sheet or a report, but as human beings who have real concerns. So I think my recruitment team has done a fantastic job, not just here in India, but US, UK as well. Just staying in touch, just keeping the concerns on board and taking the right decision. I think communication with client teams on what's in the pipeline, what's changing, what clarity do we have, don't we have, and having that kind of conversation. And being authentic about it as well, saying that I have an answer or I don't have an answer. I think that's what it is all about. And in the context of employer brand, at least I think it's very, very close to my heart. It's about values, right? You cannot have a brand which does not align to what you actually do. Branding is not about what you put out there, but branding is about who you are. And I think this is the time where, for all of our companies, that's been tested. And like Sonia so proudly said that I'm so glad my values align with my companies. It's the same for all of us. And the employees themselves have also experienced it. So I think what we've done really well is allowing each recruiter, lots of calls between recruitment and myself and all the teams, and allowing them to lay out what's happening with the candidate base that they are interacting with. So what's the sentiment like? What are their drivers? What are they looking for? And what do we do? Whether it was a high growth, because I think in the last 45 days, we've actually hired 1,500 people. And all virtually, so how are you doing virtual interviews? How are you being effective in making sure the right profiles are coming in? How are you staying in touch? So lots of investment in technology, all of that has happened. And then listening back from the recruiters and aligning our personas accordingly, like what are we going for? Who do we hire at this point in time has been extremely successful. And if you do go onto social media, you'll find most of our posts in the last 45 days have been about people. Because truly that's been top of mind. Like, are you doing well? Is your family doing well? Mindfulness, cooking, hobbies. You know, I've worn all kinds of fancy clothes and done all kinds of videos which have been patched together to make a fun video. So, I mean, that kind of stuff just to keep the morale going has been something that we focused on. I think it's gone down really well, both internally and with candidates.
All right, great. I think firstly, kudos to you for bringing up the importance of transparency and authenticity. I think that those two are the most foundational pillars for employer branding. And thank you so much for sharing that. At this stage, I'm going to ask the attendees for some transparency and authenticity. Like we've heard from Sonia as well as from Soma, I think the hiring may have taken a hit. It may still be going on, and of course, the employee morale can still take a hit. So I want to ask the attendees: has your hiring been affected? Has it dropped? Has it increased? Anything? And I think we'll have a poll coming in shortly that will have everything go live. So let's just see, how that happens as well. Uh, yes, so I think you can see there whether it is the hiring activity has decreased by 10-20%. We've given you enough options. Hopefully, you fall under one of those headings. I think we'd really appreciate it. We'd appreciate your participation. We've crossed 200 in terms of engaged senior audience as well. So that's also a great number for us. Yes, I think we have a few messages coming in also that where hiring is happening for critical roles. Great. I think that's also an important insight that's coming in. Of course, I think within about 30 seconds we'll be we'll see where this shapes up in terms of the percentage of people and where they lie, and of course then we move on to the next section as well, which sort of which focuses on a question which I'm 100% certain will ruffle a few feathers. It is a question that is always I think there are very few questions that are as relevant as this one and in the current time. I think for now we can pause with the poll, and once this poll is done, and we'll see what it looks like as well. Yeah. So I think the one right. So we see hiring activity has decreased by more than 50%. So I think that's quite a stark number, and I really understand the plight of those folks who've had to sort of pause all their hiring plans and everything. And this is what I think we were talking about as well, that we don't know. So you can see people in the 10 to 20%, 20-50% bracket. There's someone who actually also said, like, their hiring has increased by 20 to 50%. So that's also great news for those. But yes, I think we're now in a situation where we understand that everyone's dealing with this without any playbook, which is why I want to come to the next question. Employer branding in good times is always fun. I mean, employer branding when everything's positive, the company's a best place to work, everything's going well, right? But what happens when the organizations, HR leaders, and business leaders are told to right size? I'm not going to say downsize. I'm going to have to say right size. And this is a question that's coming from someone who's currently with Uber, and I think the question I want to put to each of you, if you could, and because it's an important question, I'm going to put it to each of you, which is why I'd love to get your thoughts on how do you deal with the communication barrier when it comes to right sizing? How do you use your employer brand well? Some of it may have already been spoken about, but I'd like to start with Sonia, and let me see what you have to say on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking that it's going to come to me, but here's something that I personally feel. When it comes to branding or sort of making your requirement top of mind, you don't have to do that much of it when you're already reaching out to people with jobs, with recruitment opportunities, because you make news, right? Getting jobs to people is something that puts you in news any which ways, and it creates a lot of excitement. you supplement it with your efforts by talking about yourself and what you do, what are you good at. Now, what happens is, and we were discussing about this a couple of weeks back in an internal meeting, is that when we do not have that push on hiring, our efforts around telling our own story effectively tend to take a back seat, because it's a very reactive reaction to our reach out to prospective talent. We do not believe, and that's where possibly we need to keep our agility going, that you ought to tell your story at all times with the same authenticity. Like Soma said, it is so important to be authentic, but at the same time, you need to be timely at it. Right. So today, saying that, I'm not going to be possibly hiring in thousands, hence I don't need to talk about my story, is fundamentally not proportional to your efforts. You need to reach out, you need to talk about it and say, hey, whenever this comes up, if at all, the poll that I've seen is 50% or 20%, people will look forward. People would like to pipeline with you and say, hey, you know what, whenever you come up, or there are a lot of alumni portals that run with this initiative, which people look forward to what's happening. And so engagement and telling your story in the right way continuously, with hiring being one of the outcomes, is important.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, like you said, again, what's happening when we're not talking about just jobs, that will dictate a lot of our employer brand as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to come to you, Manish, because this time would definitely not have been easy for, within the Whirlpool family as well, because you've got plants, you've got migrant workers, you've got all of that available. How do you, at least from an employer branding point of view, ensure that it's all on the right track? How do you ensure that I'm sure you may not necessarily have been in that situation where you've had to right size, but if you do, how do you do that? And how do you ensure your employer branding strategy is on track still?
Sure. So yeah, we haven't yet landed into that spot. But what I generally believe is that, during these unprecedented times, every employer brand, like a product brand, has its own attributes, right? Which organization always reinforce with different stakeholders. Now, this is a time when there is a real pressure test on all those attributes. And when you talk about employer branding, of course, as what Sonia said, getting a job and losing a job is something which gets highlighted more in comparison to other aspects of the employer branding, and especially more so in these current times. But I think the real strength of the employer brand is much more than getting a job or very job specific, communications and interactions. For example, how do you communicate with your ecosystem in terms of your partners, with your campuses, and let's not forget about the very important constituent of employer branding, which is your existing employees. Employer branding is not only about outside prospects, but also a lot about your internal set of people. So, and I think organizations which have really invested a lot in continuously and very coherently, consistently communicated all their attributes to different stakeholders of their employer brand, internal to organization employees, outside, a larger ecosystem of partners, campuses, aspirants. I think this is the time to pressure test that strength, right, in that sense. And a lot of times, I would like to draw a corollary to the product brands. There are fabulous brands which are market leaders or in the top three positioning from a market share perspective, but they quit the market. They merge their brand with somebody else. So I think, and in the same corollary, employer brands also go through those motions. But I think the real strength comes from what you have done before this, how you have established the trust. And I think whenever in these times, whenever the organizations, and that's what our philosophy has been, to be, whatever we do it with a heart, and people need to understand that it is coming really from the, so intent is very important. And unless the communication or whatever things which are going to employees or those different stakeholders, unless there is no intent into it, people can figure it out. People have in these times, a strong knack to differentiate between what is the content and what is a faff. So people are able to spot you very, very quickly. So, and from a Whirlpool perspective, I think we have been very holistic in our approach, and every year we do spend a lot of time in ensuring that our intent is communicated to our different stakeholders. So that while these peaks and troughs will come and go, but what people associate with your employer brand is the core attributes. That is one. And I think there is another very important point which we are also learning, is that the attributes of the employer brand which you have run with so many years, I think we really need to look at again, and this is the right time for that. For example, not many organizations in their employer value proposition have said, "Oh, we are the people who will give you the best health benefits over and above the career, expat opportunities." Now, this is an attribute which is coming in, and I think this is also a time wherein we in Whirlpool, we are very consciously looking at it, that in the next coming scenario, what are the different attributes we want to highlight and re-communicate to our different constituents.
Right. I think, thank you for sharing it. Like you said, rethink, reimagine, or a lot of those things. If I could just quickly pose the same question to you, Soma, from a CHRO perspective, from someone I think who this decision is possibly one of the toughest decisions that you would have to take, where you also have it approved in front of you that we're having to let go of people or right sizing, as as we're saying. If I could just have quickly your perspective on how to handle this situation.
I think in short, there is no easy way and there is no positive way of doing it. We may tell the story and paint the picture of the larger good and how the company needs to, in order to be viable, let go of certain people. But the one who's losing the job, for them, it doesn't make any sense. There's no way you can do it in a good way or a positive way. I think the only thing you can do is do it in a respectful manner. So in our industry, I think, unfortunately, it's a way of life. There are ramp ups and then there are ramp downs, and people are used to the cycle that I'm working for a client, and if their business reduces, then I'm going to get let go, or I'm going to get reassigned to something else, and then I can choose whether to stay or not. So to that extent, I think my team, hats off to them, are pretty used to doing it, but doing it face to face, when you can talk to a person and express to them the emotion that goes along with it, is very different than doing it on a call or on a video, which, as we all know, gets recorded and gets onto public social media and gets you a lot of bad press. So I think our conversation in the team has been about sensitizing the young folks in HR on how to go about doing it, and how to tell the message, how to be respectful, how to allow for listening and all of that. But that's the best you can do, Prashant. I mean, what needs to be done needs to be done, and then you do it as respectfully as you can. You do it. I mean, you bring in some criteria about performance, attitude, all of that. You go back into your database and make sure that you don't let specific people go, and there's a logic and there's transparency and objectivity. But beyond that, it's a bad news, and you live with what you have to.
Yes, I think what you shared there is extremely important, that you can paint the entire picture as much as you want, but eventually it's that one person losing his or her job, and that's a very tough moment. So sensitivity training, I think that's another key aspect, that's there. I think one point that I think we have discussed is that the option, or sometimes the situation, and something as a trend that we've been seeing, is around deferring the joinings. And I'm going to ask, and I'm going to pose that question only to Sonia first, simply because I want to understand from a university point of view and how all of that happens. It's definitely not easy. But before I move into the answer from you, we'll just take one quick poll again, and this time the poll will again be about what we're talking about, which is about have the audience been in a situation where they've deferred any incoming joinings. I think once we see that answer, we'll have a better opportunity to pick Sonia's brains about that as well. So I think if we can have the next poll live, which is about, have you deferred some candidate joinings? Some or all, in fact, because that is something that's been a part of the situation so far. Also, I think nice to see that the count is increasing. To all the attendees, I can see all your questions. I'm sorry I can't take them right away, but I will. We'll try to save some time in the end, and we'll try to take at least 1 or 2 questions from the questions that you're sending out live. I can see all the messages that you were sending across as well. Can we have the next poll live, please? Yes. So it's a pretty simple question. We'll take 1 click. Would request you to do that quickly. We'll pause for this for just about 15 seconds. Have you deferred some or all candidate joinings due to COVID-19? It's a very understandable and a very empathetic question that we're asking, simply because a lot of us have been in that situation, which is why it's important for us to ask you as well. Don't worry, I can see all your questions, all your comments in the chats and the live Q&A. I will try to come to them. If I'm not, my apologies in advance, because we do have a certain time limit and I don't want to exceed that at all. Yes, I think this is a quick question, so I think we can wrap up the poll now. Yes, thank you. All right, so 73% have had to do that, right? Sonia, so right on cue, you can see 73% of them have voted, and I'm sure if more would have been able to vote, they would have voted in the same region. If you could just answer within 2 minutes, or 2-3 minutes, and share your perspective on how to do this, because it is something that's quite a trend in the current scenario.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm not surprised 70% or more have had to defer the date of joining. But the only piece that I feel we need to think about is the immediate reaction was to defer date of joining, because a lot of us came from the thought process that this thing is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and we will be out of it. I think getting into it 2-3 weeks, we all slowly started to know that this is a long race. It's a marathon that we are all getting into. So deferring is definitely possibly parking the problem a fortnight ahead. As far as I'm concerned, since we are talking university, and I'll like to cite that example, there was an option for me to deal with hundreds of interns and full-timers from university that are going to join us. And the immediate reaction that some of us had is, okay, let's park them ahead and we'll deal with the problem later. But I think I want to connect back to what I said in the beginning, is that at this point, how are you looking at the well-being of the system as well? What is the right thing to do? And the right thing to do as an organization that we concluded globally was to stand tall to our commitments. And if we have to do that, you have to do it now, you have to do it after a couple of weeks. And hence it was like getting heads down into figuring out what is needed to make that a reality. And then you get into things like, okay, what does it mean to be virtually onboarding folks, and how will you work it out, and how will your day look like, and how will your meetings look like? It might definitely not be the experience. I've used this backdrop for most of my sessions, and I've told them I would have loved to get you here, but all I can do right now is just get this picture. But at that point, what is important is deferring in these times, at least, is just parking the problem in another parking spot. And that's not a solution. That's something that all of us in principle have figured out. Our approaches to deal with it are different. I have up to your time limit of 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And of course, within that, sharing your own experience has a great impact for us as well. I think the next question I want to come to, I want to pose the next question only to Soma, and I'll come to Manish for the next question after that. But to Soma, I'm coming to you with this because you had shared about how you're engaging with the recruiters and how the recruiters are engaging with the candidates in the pipeline, how they're doing onboarding. And as I can see, a lot of questions in the chat, as well as the live Q&A, as well as the the pre-decided Q&A, came around how do we continue to do this? How do we discuss with them in case the hiring has been deferred, in case the hiring is ready? How do we do all of that? So if quickly you could share some tips and tricks and how you think that aspect can be taken care of.
So one thing one of my team members came up with, and I loved the idea, was like a live cam kind of a recording. So this person actually, before we shut down offices, especially in the UK and US, where they were still working after India had stopped, they created these little videos, 1.5 minute videos. We had to fight with our Marcom team to let us go with that because they weren't the most polished of videos. But we created these little clips of what our cafeteria looks like, what the office looks like, talk to a few people, etc. So we've been releasing these little videos to candidates who are already in the pipeline or who've signed up and received offers and we are not able to onboard. So I think it's been about inventing as you go, talking a lot, sending them as much information as we could. We've utilized social media, videos, Zoom, etc. quite a lot, but that's about it. And I think, again, I come back to transparency. If I know your job is gone and I'm not going to be able to fulfill my commitment, I better tell you now rather than 3 weeks later, because it gives you more time to then look out for it. We have to remember we are all on the same side. It's not like the candidates don't know the realities of what's going on. 80-90% of them understand what's going on, and the more honest and timely, as Sonia said, the timely you are, it's in their best interest and in your best interest. But if you believe you can hire them and it's a question of a few months, then doing all kinds of fun and innovative things to stay in touch is what we've gone with.
Right. So I think one key aspect that again she closed with is that don't forget to try to have fun. Make it more interactive, make it more human. I think a lot of that might work for those that are deferred joinings, or even I think the induction and orientation process now is going through a slight makeover. And that makeover as well, I think technology and a bit of human touch will play an important role. I can see that in the chat, so I'm bringing that to light as well. I want to go to Manish now with a, with something that he had shared in his own, in the last question he was answering. You spoke about reinventing a lot of processes and going back to how things worked previously and saying that let's do this now and this is how we should improve. The question comes from someone at HCL where they say candidate experience has, a very, very crucial element has always been the physical office. The physically present setup. Here's my office, here's everything. And that I think the office, just like Sonia with her background of the office right now, it plays a huge role in the brand, right? Is similarly for Whirlpool, you think of factories, you think of beautiful plants, that's what you think of. So how do you see that changing? How do you see that conversation, that strategy, all of that changing now?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for asking this question, Prashant. I think it's a very important one to put this to understand the context and you
can actually thank Divya from HCL. This is her question. She had signed up previously and shared it with us.
Right. Okay, thanks Divya for this question. So so if I were to sequentially put the flow of events, of course, the moment this whole disruption started, so I think the first response was to move everything digitally. Right, be it right from how you interview to how you get people on board to get them assimilated in the organization. So there was with a lot of high speed kind of an integration, of course, with our internal IT teams and HR teams, and of course a lot of initiatives and adaptability by the hiring managers also, because it is not easy for hiring managers community to adapt to this change. And we made sure that they are not left behind in this whole transition. So we invested a lot in terms of orienting them that look, this is the new rule of the game. And of course, all those recruiters, you can understand that temptation to meet the candidate before the final decision is made. Even if it doesn't matter how many rounds of Zoom calls or Hangouts you have, you want to physically meet. So I think everybody was on board, and a bit of a sensitization and adaptation to new reality, we sailed that board. Of course, with low business and economic activity, the things are on a kind of a freeze right now. So there's not much activity happening. But again, though, wherever we are going ahead, it is on very high strategic areas, which leads to which fits into our business strategy, like your online or any other business segment. Now, when we look at a brand and in terms of experiences, in this COVID-19 scenario. Brand has two again features. One is the imagery, which is like your pictures, what people can see it on the internet, those videos, the previous experiences, what people communicate informally. And the other one is the soul, what we would typically call as the experience of the brand, right? And I think in these times, every organizations will definitely put out a lot of imagery about it. But I think what will separate a good, strong, confident employer brand is how much they are able to ensure the experience through conversations. And I think that's where the space what in Golpur we are working on. So even if it is campus, it is, or even with our prospective employees, continuously communicating and making the things live through conversations, and it is not only again restricted to how you communicate with empathy, but also making sure that you're partner with them in this, because we discussed that nobody has a playbook, for this. So giving that very vulnerable, kind of aspect that look, we don't know yet, but what we can assure you is that we will figure it out with you. So you are in a red zone right now. You cannot join, and there's an internet issue out there. No problem. Let's figure it out. How do we do that? So conversations are, I think, which will bring the real soul of the employer brand. And either you are taking those drastic people cost actions, or you are deferring the joinings. A good conversation, which really displays the intent of the brand, I think it's going to make a difference.
Great. I think focusing on conversations and I think being as transparent as well, I think that's something that will come, and like you said, the soul of the strategy will come across, soul of the organization will come across. I think that's again something that's a great insight. But how I want to transition into the next poll is again through Manish, because Manish is already at office. So Manish has joined back work. This is his second day. I realized this when I spoke to him yesterday in the lead up to the event, which is where our next poll comes in. The next poll is simply around trying to understand whether you guys are going back to work, or you are simply clueless as well about whether you're going back to work or not. So I think we'll just go live with the next poll now. Which basically talks about, are you planning to open your workplace in the next 15 days, maybe in a month, or you're simply not sure? Because as you can see, I think the poll's live. What this will tell us is, I think, how relevant this webinar is also for you, because a lot of the content, a lot of the strategy, a lot of the value that we're trying to bring, it will continue to stay for those who are trying to figure out more ways to work from home, trying to come up with a new strategy, what to do, what not to do. I think a lot of us still may be uncertain, which is why maybe in a month is also an option that you can choose. Yes, I think in the interest of time, right? So I think yes. So right. So as I can also see. All right. So it's mixed. So again, I think that's a very, very important key aspect, that everyone has their own strategy right now. A lot of them are back to work. As I can see on the chat, I think a few of you are already back at work. So that's commendable, of course. And some opening in the next 15 days, some maybe in a month. Work from home has become the new normal for us. What a wonderful thing for about 28% to also vote on that. I think that is something that I think we'll have to do another webinar to talk about that. and I think that's when we'll have to have a proper conversation about that. But just to sort of bring it all to fruition, I think something, since we've got about 15 minutes to go, I want to pose the next and most important crucial aspect to all three of you. Time permitting, after that, we'll also try to take a question from the live, the folks that have tuned in right now as well. And if you could just make your answers quick and precise in the interest of time. My question is, what are things that you think are now permanent and in terms of changes to your strategy? Whether the COVID stays, and I mean, we all hope that it goes away very, very soon and we're back to normalcy. What are things that you've learned for employer branding in this lockdown that you think will have a permanent impact on your strategy? I'm going to go in reverse this time, and I'm going to start with the CHRO perspective first. So Soma, if you could share your take on it.
Prashant, I think my connection is very unstable. Your question is, what did we learn in this experience?
Yeah. So my question is, what do you think is a permanent change to your employer branding strategy? Something that you would not uh, go back to. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can make out what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Uh, um, so to be honest, I don't think there were any big mistakes or anything that we were making that I need to change because of this. What we have learned is that there is a wealth of knowledge and experience and ideas within the team, and we don't always have to look at outside and consultants to come and solve our problems. So I think that's one thing I've learned personally, that when I have a problem, go down and talk to everybody who's actually in the trenches doing the job. So that's something we will do more of. I think focusing on well-being, something we had started doing, I think it was catching on, at least in the ITES sector, that we have to talk about the wholesomeness and bringing your whole self to work. And apart from inclusion and diversity and mental well-being, we were talking about the whole well-being of the employee. So that's something that we need to articulate better as part of our value proposition that we're going out into the market with. And agility, that while I don't think many of our people want to stay home, some do, some want to come back to office. So I think we'll have a mix of work from home and office. It's not like my work will shift completely to home or office. So we'll have to get used to that, but agility in times like this and how do you come together and respond is something that we have now documented and made reams of SOPs and stuff that we want to stick to. So that's been a good learning. But from a branding perspective, I think empathy and genuinity and communication was something we always valued. So it's been pretty much the same.
Absolutely. So I think a key aspect there is something around, now you have SOPs and playbooks in place for how to gather those individual things that how do you make your organization more agile in these times. So I think that's a great thing to share as well. Manish, I think I'm going to come to you next, simply because I think you spoke about how the benefits and everything may be of more importance, the medical benefits. How do you want to do that? So I mean, if in 2 minutes you could quickly summarize what according to you is a permanent change to your employer branding strategy, and this could be around anywhere from the use of technology, anything, the process of interviewing, candidate experience, all of that is in play now.
Yeah. So very interestingly, Prashant, you have used an antithesis in your question itself in one line. You asked the permanency and the change. So these are, so a permanent change. So if I were to share my thoughts, I don't think there will be anything which will be permanent. I think we believe in Whirlpool that employer brand is a strong brand which is able to very seamlessly adapt to the change. So what is relevant? So health and benefits is at the top of the line of your attribute of the employer brand, was not there about a year back or maybe a few months back. Now here, God forbid we are into this scenario, we will have to adapt. Who knows, maybe 6 months down the lines when the things will open up, there will be a huge issue about livelihoods, about upskilling. So rather than changing the core part of employer brand, I think we'll be very sharp in redefining the language of how we are, communicating our employer brand attributes to our stakeholders. And I think that is very important. And I don't think we'll be compromising on the core of the employer brand, because we strongly believe in the strength of it. It has stood for more than 100 years, in that sense. So Whirlpool is a more than 110-year-old company. And we'll keep on doing that. But yes, we will keep on refining it. We'll keep on adding larger meaning to it, which will resonate with the needs and the aspirations of our stakeholders.
Right. I think before I give the opportunity to Sonia, to just close that point, I'm going to remodel my question a bit, because I can see a few people in the chat very plainly saying nothing is permanent. So yes, nothing is permanent. My apologies for the framing of that question, sir. But just to sort of, I think what I would say is technology now a permanent fixture in all your processes? Is it? I'm sure it was earlier as well, but has it taken a more important role now?
coming from a tech organization, I think it always took the forefront. So I will not say that we never thought about technology. But to me, 3 R's matter the most. And that is reskilling, reimagining, and refreshing. I think what is very, very important is to realize that, and we've had all of this. I'm possibly repeating and rambling some things that we've spoken about, but we are speaking about it in the new light. What got us here will not take us there. We have to think about our new normal, all of that. But whatever I tell you today, there is no guarantee that it will stay true even tomorrow. So, to your question, is it permanent? We have to constantly get into the practice saying, okay, we have to be agile, like Soma said, to every situation now, because we don't know what's going to happen next. Are we going to be digital? Is digital evolution going to pose another set of challenge? How are we going to respond to that? Is our education system going to change? Is our experience going to change? Our dependency on certain third-party agencies is going to change? The health benefits, will they have to be claimed differently? So we need to simply be able to reskill, reimagine, and refresh, reimagine ourselves and say, okay, I'm ready to get into it and then figure it out. Most of the people sort of have struggled because they've not been able to be agile and say, okay, fine, let's jump into it and let's swim as we learn to swim.
Weird. I think something that I sort of I've realized myself as well is that through technology we're able to do things that, and so I've actually met 2 of you at events, and I would have loved to meet Manish at an event as well. But this webinar is an example of how we could do these things from the comfort of our homes. Soma, do you have something to add?
And on a lighter note, when Sonia said we have to think of the 3 R's, I thought she's talking about the Bangalore traffic and how you get stuck in it for 3 hours a day and how you're saving time by working from home.
Yeah. So I just put,
Yes,
yeah.
please. Yes, please.
Yes, yeah, thanks. So I just want to add one element that I think the core, and I keep on referring back to it because, for example, we take about Whirlpool brand, employer brand such as 3 value proposition, early differentiated roles, open inclusive culture, spirit of winning. So I think these are, I don't think these values are going to change even, after COVID or another COVID, God forbid, or any other this thing, because I think these attributes signify the human spirit. To be successful, to want to be successful, to make a mark for oneself, and you cannot change that spirit. And I think that's the evolutionary nature of the human spirit. Yes, right now we are broadcasting it through channels like this, Zoom. Tomorrow we might be doing it in some other way. Who knows? So I think that's where we have to adapt. And just to add on to build on what Sonia said. So yeah, reimagining in that space, but the core value still remains the same.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree to that. And I feel this has just pushed us to think differently. I know even in personal spaces, we've started thinking differently. In absence of support systems, in absence of the help, haven't we been innovative in doing things differently? And just about bringing that authentic self to work and sort of being able to shift gears.
Absolutely. I think thank you so much for sharing that as well. I think what I've been able to do through my moderation is sort of patch in a lot of questions that were coming in live as well. I hope I've been able to take a few. A few I would sort of avoid because they're a little individual in nature. But I think we've been able to talk about the importance of technology. We've been able to discuss, how employer branding strategies are supposed to flow from top to bottom. The core value must remain the same. I think we've also had some really great inputs on chat where I think, so Pragya says, the crisis has afforded us time for reflection. So use it wisely. I think that's very, very simply put. You can control what's in your control, right? So you have this time now. Let's try to do and it goes back to that same principle that Sonia just closed, the conversation with: reimagine, reinvent, and reskill. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we're all, we're all trying to learn as we go. We're not in a situation where we have ready-made playbooks for anyone or any one person. But I think what's very important is that we've heard 3 different leaders from 3 different organizations, and we've tried to understand how some of it can be customized and be used for all of you wonderful attendees who've spent your Friday afternoon with us. I've tried to incorporate a lot of questions. If I haven't been able to add yours, my apologies. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another one, so I'll definitely get yours then. But I think most importantly, please do keep tuning into the Step Up series webinars by Naukri.com. I want to thank all three panelists wonderfully. I think I've learned so much today. I'm sure all the HR professionals that have attended, close to 200, and I can see the thanks coming in as well. Thank you so much to all the attendees who've heard us out. Thank you to all the panelists who've shared these wonderful insights with us throughout the time. And to all the attendees, while you're logging out, there's a small survey form. If you fill it, we'll be back, better, bigger, everything. But if you don't fill it, then I won't get any authentic feedback. Let's stay authentic. Let's stay transparent. And I think from all three of the panelists, as well as me, as well as Naukri.com, Step Up series webinars, please continue to follow us across social media platforms so that you have everything intact. And if there's any closing thought that I think I can leave you with is something that we started with. It's that transparency and authenticity is absolutely key, right? That's your core employer branding strategy. And thank you so much to all the panelists. Thank you so much to the attendees. Hope to see you next time again.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.